Hey, aloha, everyone. I am so happy to see so many of you on the live show today for another exciting episode of A Dose of Positivity. We have a terrific show in store today for you all, as always. But today is a super extra special show for me because in the house I have my BBF from high school, Donna Lyons Ray. You can see her name in the chat. And this is her incredible daughter, Chandler Ray, who is a registered RDN, dietitian nutritionist, and a holistic one at that. And before we dive deep into how you can personalize your own nutrition, as we're waiting for people to come in the house, I just wanted to remind you of a few things and welcome all of you new people who've never been on the live show before, to remind everybody this is live. And if you're listening to the replay, again, welcome. Thanks for being here. And if you have any questions or comments about the show, please put them in the chat. Or if you're listening on a podcast 6 months from now, we do respond to all of the comments. So don't hesitate to drop your thoughts, your brilliance into the feed wherever you may be and listening to this. Also, LinkedIn people, aloha, and people on Facebook, we want to say aloha as well. But most importantly, this is going to be a very delicious conversation. And if you look at Chandler's background, you can just imagine what we're going to be discussing today. And if you have a burning question, put it in the chat right away, and we will be checking the chat and addressing it. If you also want to come up on the stage, just raise your hand and we'll bring you up on the stage as well. And again, I want to thank everybody so much for being here today. And before we get started, as people are coming in and getting settled in with their warm or cold beverages, I encourage you all to take 3 deep breaths, because remember, nutrition starts within the upper body, in our mouth, in our respiratory system. And just breathe in deep, take in some oxygen, and listen to the few words that I'm going to share from one of my books, Living Like the Future Matters. So I encourage you to sip on something delicious, not too cold, not too hot, just the right temperature, like Goldilocks. And we'll be talking about temperature and our nutrition as well today. So that's a pretty important reminder for myself there to bring that up. So yeah, just take some breaths. Breath is life. And inhaling and exhaling through your nose if you want to relax your vagus nerve and your central nervous system. If you're looking for energy, breathing out, and you want to wake up, breathe out your mouth. And these are some things about nutrition in holistic perspective of wellness starts with the breath. So I'm going to be reading from Ecological and Economic Mindset, a chapter from this book. This is kind of a fact. Our body is home to about 100 trillion bacteria and other microbes, collectively known as that's right, microbiome. The healthier our microbiome, the stronger our immune system is. The vast majority of microbiome live in this is a quiz, people. Where do they live? In our digestive system. Very good, very good. A lot of them live in our mouth too. The diversity of these mini microbes is essential to stay balanced. They help us digest food, produce vitamins, and ward off those nasty germs. When we are balanced, vitality is the outcome. This is the topic of this discussion today, is vitality through diet and nutrition, and of course our breath. And today in the house, we have the most incredible, wonderful registered dietitian that I have ever met, super knowledgeable, Chandler Ray. And I'm going to read you her bio. Yeah, it's true, man. I had a session with her and it blew my mind. Anyway, that's why she's on the show, because she blew my mind. But anyway, Chandler as I said, she's a registered dietitian and nutritionalist. And this is really great, you guys, because she has a personal journey that she's going to talk about which fueled her dedication to nutrition, because she has overcome her own eating disorder like most of us have or in the process of. She pursued her studies in nutritional science at Penn State University and completed her dietetic internship at the University of Maryland. Her career has spanned diverse roles in San Diego, including private practice, clinical nutrition, genetics, whoa, and menu development, my favorite. Chandler specializes in personal nutrition, helping clients manage chronic illness and develop healthier relationships with food. Now she is based in New Jersey, my home state. She operates her private practice there, and Chandler is a RDN and an LLC, offering tailored nutrition guidance to optimize health and promote balanced lifestyle. Chandler, welcome to the show.
Hi, Donna. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. We've gone with, I mean, obviously you've been best friends with my mom, like her whole life, like you guys have been best friends forever. But I am so happy we're able to connect on your show. And I'm really excited to talk today about any nutrition topics that you guys might have and give you guys a little bit of history about myself and like what we do in my practice.
That sounds so great. And yeah, my BBF is in the house, you guys. Donna and I have known each other since we're like 14, and we're both 66, and this is her beautiful daughter. So I mean, that it fuels my soul. So but today we're going to primarily be talking about food and diet nutrition, and I know some of you on the live show might have some questions about what your own personal dietary needs are and how RDN might be able to help you. And please don't be shy. We'll be checking the chat. We'll cover any topic. This woman knows her stuff, so don't be shy. So just start us off with some history and background of what brought you to this world of being an RDN. I thought you and your sister were going to be professional soccer players when I first.
My career in soccer ended when in high school, but yeah, that always maybe would have been the path for one of us. But anyway, so thank you again for having me. I'm really excited to chat tonight. So nutrition has played a role in my life for as long as I've remembered. I've always been a foodie. I've always been a very adventurous eater, even as a child. And in our family, we always grew up like having home cooked meals. My mom, who's on the call tonight, was always making us really delicious and nutritious foods growing up. I was also an athlete in high school. So I played soccer. I was also a runner. I did a lot of long distance running. So I quickly learned that food had a really big impact on my performance. So what I ate would impact how I did in my soccer game or how much energy I had on my runs. During the same time in high school, I unfortunately developed an unhealthy relationship with my body and food and developed a pretty severe eating disorder. And the battle between managing sports and having to have my grade, do well in school and have good grades, and also be struggling immensely with food and my body. And I really needed help. So at that time, my parents kind of stepped in and said, we're going to get you treatment. And I did get treatment at that time. And I am forever grateful for that because it really did save my life. And when I left treatment, I started working with an amazing dietitian. And she really helped me develop like a really amazing relationship with food. And that experience that I went through has really motivated me to want to pursue a career in nutrition and help others that face similar challenges. And I've always also loved science, particularly biology and understanding the body. So that with my love for science, my love for new food, as I always had from a child, and my own personal struggles that I had, with having had an eating disorder, led me to want to pursue nutrition and become a dietitian. And I never turned back. So,
That is so great. This is the funniest thing, Chandler. You're going to appreciate that. And I just love how vulnerable you are. And the reason why I have to interject right here, this is a little humor for you all. And Chandler has also rescues dogs, and Chandler's going to be coming here taking care of my dogs. Kevin, there's a biscuit behind there. My dogs have an eating disorder. The biscuit's behind there. That's why she's warning. One of my dogs is having a fit because I threw a biscuit and it went behind a table, and my dogs definitely it's all about food and the relationship with food. But that is such a heartwarming story. So when you have people coming in with, say, an eating disorder per se, and I'm sure you have plenty of people because that you can relate and you've helped them. What's your approach to helping this word relationship with food? We think of relationship with people and animals, but relationship with food. I'd love for you to dive into that and how you build a trust and relationship with your clients.
And one thing I do just want to point out here too, we do in my practice specialize in eating disorders. So I see a lot of clients with eating disorders, but I also just see a lot of clients that just struggle with their relationship with food. They don't necessarily have a clinical diagnosed eating disorder, but they struggle for years of like yo-yo dieting and constantly being on a diet and constantly being off a diet, or struggling with just emotional eating. And it's okay to emotionally eat. I tell my clients that all the time. It's okay to feel happy and celebrate with food, or be bored and grab, a bag of something. But there's a time and a place, and I, work with clients that struggle with always using food to cope with emotions, or always using it to celebrate. Not everybody that I work with on improving their relationship with food necessarily has an eating disorder. There's so many other, I think a lot of people just struggle in areas of their life where maybe the way that they're thinking about food isn't the healthiest mindset. So what we really work on with all of our clients is, well, for one, like the most important thing is that we take a super individualized approach. So how I might address a specific issue with a client it might be completely different with somebody else, because everybody's struggle and everybody's journey is different. And we always want to customize whatever we recommend and suggest to a client based off the individual. So we take a very thorough intake with all of our clients. We want to know their goals. We want to know what their struggles are, what they like, what they don't like, all of the information. Our initial appointments are very, very comprehensive. So that way, when we follow up with our clients and continue to work with them, they have specific, achievable, realistic goals that are individualized, like to the specific person.
That's really great. Well, a couple things as a registered dietitians in general, I would think that a few words come to mind, like what creates an eating disorder, malnutrition, like you're low in selenium or zinc or whatever, the bio individuality that you're talking about and the intake. I would love for you to what are some of those testing that you do? Is it blood, urine, glucose monitoring? What are the things that you do to identify someone's eating relationship with food or eating disorder?
Well, there's definitely signs that we identify in session. Like if someone comes to us that might not know that they have an eating disorder, or they suspect, there are specific signs and symptoms that we'll look for, and we can pick it up pretty quickly. Within an initial appointment, we usually will refer out to like a therapist and create a whole team and see what, like, if they would benefit from a more inpatient or outpatient approach when it comes to treating the eating disorder. But if there are just other indications of just not having a healthy relationship with food, that's something that we would dive in deeper with our client and figure out, you know, why these behaviors are arising, where they stem from, and how we can put tools and create healthy habits in place to slowly over time help heal that relationship with food, and make choices that they feel good about and feel empowered to make, and don't feel like they have to because it's like a diet or like a program or something that they're forced to do. It's something that they want to do because it makes them feel good, both physically and mentally. In terms of blood work and tests, dietitians can't run scripts for blood work, but we work very closely with our patients' primary care doctors or their cardiologists or the specialist that they're seeing to recommend blood work that we would think would be necessary, whether that is vitamins or nutrients. It might be their blood sugar. It could be a lipid panel for cholesterol. So we work closely from a collaborative approach with our clients' providers to make sure that they get all the testing and blood work that we need to accurately make nutrition recommendations based off what's going on internally.
So that you bring up a great point. Like, I the on how is an RDN different than, say, a health coach or a primary care doc who's running blood work? Like, where does an RDN come in, and when is it time for someone to reach out?
Yeah, so there is a big difference between like a registered dietitian nutritionist, an RDN, and a health coach or even a nutritionist. I feel like nowadays a lot of people are just calling themselves like a nutritionist, right? Or especially like on social media, there's a lot of nutrition advice being thrown out there that is not backed up by nutrition science or by any type of, you know, the people that don't have the credentials to give that information. A dietitian goes through pretty extensive training and schooling. We have to complete a bachelor's degree in nutritional science or dietetics, which is a 4-year program. And then now dietitians are required to also get their master's degree. So we have to get our master's degree. And then we also have to complete a dietetic internship, which is a 9 to 12-month program where we have to do 1,200 hours of supervised practice in a variety of settings. So that could be in oncology, pediatrics, the ICU. It could be in community settings, government, like food governance settings. So like working for different like food labeling companies. And after we complete that dietetic internship and all the coursework that goes along with it, we can sit for like a national exam. And if we pass that exam, we become registered dietitians. Some states also require additional license for that specific state for a dietitian, and we have to continue with continuing education like credentials every year to maintain our license. So it's pretty extensive when it comes to the schooling. As dietitians, we can work in like hospitals, we can work in clinical settings, we can accept insurance if we choose to, if we work in like a private practice setting. And we can, since we have the education that we do, we can read blood work, we can really provide like sound nutrition, like recommendations based off nutrition science, which I think is really, really important, especially when you're dealing with people that have chronic diseases or have health conditions that really, we need to like really know what's going on in the body to make recommendations that are safe for the patient.
That is so helpful right there, what you just said. And you guys, if you're listening to this, I think one of the most important things is not that it's the most important, but insurance. A lot of people don't, you know, health coaches don't take insurance, and primary care doctors usually don't know poop or shit about nutrition, I'm sorry to say, most of them.
Mhm.
And the thing that I love about Chandler, she takes a super holistic approach. Anybody who knows me knows that that comes first, right?
Mhm.
And so we do have someone in here who's saying, and you know, I'm 67 years old, young, and I'm having real trouble with weight gain in the last couple of years. Aha, me too. I don't want to diet, but do want to give my body what it needs without gaining more weight. How do I proceed? So that's a good question right there. Let's nail that one, Chandler.
Mhm. Yeah, so I would have like so many questions to ask you, because one of the things, like I had mentioned, is that we take a very individualized approach. So if you were to have an appointment with me, I would want to know about your past medical history. I would want to know what medications you're taking, because that can also affect our weight, what supplements you take, how much water you drink, how much sleep you get, what your diet looks like, where do you go food shopping, what times do you eat, what do you like. That would really be able to, I can't give you like specific advice without knowing the full picture. And that's what I think is so important about working with a dietitian, is that you know the full picture of what's going on, and what, then I can make recommendations based off our, like, my assessment of what I think would be best for you. I mean, I think in general, it is important, as throughout our lifespan, our bodies do change. That it happens for a lot of us. It happens for most of us, that our bodies will change throughout our life. And I think the most important thing that we can focus on, if we feel like our body's changing and we're not happy about it, is that we focus on our health. Because if we focus on making healthy changes and try to implement things in our life that are only going to benefit our overall health and wellness, then our weight will end up where it's meant to be. And I know that sometimes that's a hard like pill to swallow if like we're not happy with where our weight's at. But if we focus on, I'm really just going to try to take care of my health, and I know what I'm doing is good for my health, and then trusting that your body will follow where it should be, I think is a good approach. Because I think a lot of people get anxious about their weight, and they get worked up, and they get really worried. And when we shift our focus and our mindset a little bit, sometimes like we see better, even like weight loss outcomes with our clients, because the stress has gone down, they're less focused on it, and they're more focused on their health.
I love your answer, Marina. I think I said your name wrong, but you know, I'm the same age, struggling with the same dis-ease of, and you know what it is. Chandler set me so straight. You know, you're all, you know, we're all concerned about these numbers, right? Like my BMI, it says I'm obese, and Chandler and I had this conversation just a couple of weeks ago. It's just like, I'm technically obese, and she looked at me and she goes, "You don't look obese to me."
Uh-huh.
And it's really this perception, right, of what we have. So talk a little bit about that, the body image, and how like you, because with your personal story, have been able to help people get over this body image, and the emotional, mental uh, witnessing of our own being, how you work with people on that emotional level to overcome that,
Yeah.
the mental health part of it.
Yeah, I mean, food and mood and all that like go really hand in hand. What we eat and what we consume have a huge impact on our mood, which we could go into as well, about food and mood. But with body image, a lot of people unfortunately struggle with body image and being unhappy with how their body looks. And I mean, I do believe in body autonomy, that we have the choice and the right to want to lose weight if we want to, or want to change our body. But I always say you can't love a body that you hate, right? Like, so if you're going through the whole process of weight loss or a journey and you're hating your body the whole time, you're not going to get to this place of body love and body acceptance, because you have this mindset, a negative mindset towards your body the whole entire process, if that makes sense, right? So I think it's important to try to shift our mindset. Like if you feel like you are not in a good place with how your body looks, to a place of body neutrality. I know that body like positivity is a big thing that people promote, but not everybody's going to love exactly how their body looks all the time. I think we all have our own insecurities. So what I try to focus on is giving your body respect, despite how it might look at the time or how you might feel about it. And that can be, you know, practicing gratitude, like being grateful for your legs, that you can walk to work, or that you can move and pick up your grandkids, or you're grateful for, you know, your arms for being able to move around the kitchen and cook things for your family. So trying to focus on it from a gratitude perspective can be a really healthy mindset. But I think coming from a place of like body, if you're not in the best place mindset wise with your body, to try to think of it from a body neutrality standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's really good. Body neutrality. I never heard that before. Body neutrality. I like that. Hey, TJ, while you're there, or Shan, just pop in this week's blog. I think you guys will really enjoy it, and pop it in the feed while I'm thinking about it. And part of why I'm thinking about that right now, in body neutrality, and is this word that comes to home, and it's really why I wrote this book, you know, Living Like the Future Matters. It's really a book about addiction, because I had an addiction myself to food and work. I was a workaholic, a foodaholic, a sugaraholic for years, and once an aholic, always a holic. And it's kind of like coming back to this body neutrality, or just this acceptance of being grateful. And when you calm down, like how we started the show, like breathing, the vagus nerve, just like all the things you've been talking about, Chandler, and just like self-love, like you say, and self-acceptance, because it just seems like, and I'm assuming you see clients, or a lot of registered dietary nutritionists see people who have this food addiction. And I'd like to touch on that a little, and how you detect someone like me. Like if I come in, you all the red sirens would go up that this woman has an addiction problem, because you know, like sugar is, they say, is more addictive than cocaine. So are there like sequential steps that I know you talked about bioindividuality in each person individually, but are there certain things, like really tangible things that people can look at, like today, like thinking about, like, well, I know maybe I should stop eating sugar, but what if you're addicted to sugar? Like, are there things you recommend people adding in to help them?
Yeah, yeah. And you know, it depends on what you feel like the food addiction might be too. Like you said, mentioned sugar. There would be a number of things that I would look at. I would obviously look at your diet as a whole, and see what is going on when you're having these cravings, right? Like for you personally, Donna, like when you felt like you were in this phase of your life that you did have a sugar addiction, was it all the time? Was it at the end of the night? Was it after a really stressful day? Was it to celebrate? You know, I would try to identify the time it's typically happening. If there's any like triggers, right? If there's any specific things that happen in your day to day or in your life that, you know, something happens, maybe it's a thing at work. Maybe it's a stressful, you have a lot of things on your plate, and it's like at the end of the day to unwind. I would want to kind of delve a little bit deeper into like why it's happening, so we can find some other coping mechanisms in those circumstances. If it is a way to relieve like stress, like I had said, or you know, those type of things. So there would be a lot of questions that I would want to ask to like come up with a plan specifically to help combat that. You know, some people just also aren't eating enough. So they maybe skip breakfast because they're not that hungry. For lunch, they have a Yoplait yogurt that's like 50 calories. They're having a bar as a snack. And then the night rolls around and they feel like they have no control. They're overeating at dinner. They're having all the sweets after after, after dinner into the night, and they feel like they have no self-control. But that's why it's great to work with a dietitian, because they can really look at your diet and say like, hey, instead of feeling like so guilty over these food choices, let's be curious. I always like to use curiosity instead of guilt. Let's be curious about your behaviors and understand why you're doing this. So maybe it's because you're only eating 400 calories throughout the day, and then dinner rolls around and it's like it's your body's way of compensating. And you have that rebound hunger where it's insatiable. You want everything in sight, right? So that's like another example. And we do know that a lot of these sugary foods, if we're using sugar as the example, cause us to be like on a blood sugar roller coaster. So we eat a package of cookies, we have a big spike in our blood sugar, it crashes, and then we want more. So I would try to work on adding in those like things that they love, like cookies, for example, in a way that they're not having such big blood sugar spikes. So maybe they're having these sweets after dinner when they've already had like protein and fat and fiber in their meal. So there's less of a blood sugar spike, so they have less cravings, right? Or if they're having a donut with breakfast, can we eat that? Even if you're still eating a donut, can we eat it with scrambled eggs? I know that's a random combo, but my point is that like pairing things to help keep the blood sugar spike less of like an up and a down, so you have cravings all day, is another example of how maybe we could help. But it would really depend, on the person and why it's happening in the first place.
This is so good. This leads me into the next direction that I'm super stoked to take this conversation. One of the things too, I just wanted to share that as a health coach, what I have done to help people with food addiction and especially people who have alcohol substance abuse problems, it's exactly what you said, Chandler. It's that those spikes, those blood sugar things. So you reach for a drink at 5 o'clock. Really what you need to do is reach for a steak or a big tofu sandwich. That protein, right? Because your blood sugar, for me, I'm hypoglycemic, so mine just drops, like, and then so I really hope everybody heard what Chandler just said there. That is such good information. And one of the things that I wanted to get your hit on, I just wore a Libre 2 glucose monitor. And because you were talking about the spikes and the up and the downs, and these alarms go off, and it just is startling. Sometimes they'll just go out, you're just sitting there resting and you just ate a really good meal. And do you work with your clients with these glucose monitors, and what do you think of that, testing people's blood sugar in relation to like these highs and lows that they're having? And how do you recommend pricking, or do you recommend using a glucose monitor to help? Is that one of the tools you use?
Yeah, so I've worked with many clients with continuous glucose monitors, and then also clients that prick their fingers, do the little finger prick. I like continuous glucose monitors in the sense that you get so much data that it really kind of can give you a really clear picture of kind of like what's going on and the trends. I do also see that sometimes it's too much data, that it can drive people a little bit crazy when they're seeing their blood sugar all day long and they're like, oh my God, the spike. It's like throughout the day, it's just driving them crazy. So it depends on the individual. And if that level of information is going to be too much for them, or if it's like, if they do well with it, right? So some people start with the continuous glucose monitor, they just feel like it's overwhelming and it's too much information. And other people do really, really great with it. And they notice, hey, my blood sugar always spikes more in the morning. When I have this brand of cereal, I don't have a spike, but when I have this other brand, I do. So it's always giving you information throughout the day, which is why I like it, but it depends on the person if it works for them. The finger prick can also be great as well, because you can test it at specific times, right? So you can test it like 2 hours after your meal. You can test it fasting when you wake up in the morning and really get a clear picture at specific times what your blood sugar is like. I don't recommend that anybody needs to do this though, unless anybody can do it. And if this is something you're really interested in and you're into nutrition and like you want to know about your blood sugar, then go for it. But usually I work with clients that have diabetes or even pre-diabetes in some cases that are doing the blood sugar like tracking. And that's where, we really want to see where this dysregulation is happening, and help to identify how foods are affecting them and affecting their blood sugar. So I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, but if anybody can do it if they want to, if they're interested. But it's usually useful for people that have some issue with their blood sugar, whether it be from like diabetes or PCOS or other syndromes that would affect blood sugar regulation.
What seems to be the majority of the United States population right now. If people aren't pre-diabetes, they're diabetic, and including this morbidity level of diabetes in young kids now that we're having today. I found that for me, I took a break. I did the monitor for 2 weeks. It was super helpful. What I learned from it, that is, I stayed in the range. My A1C got up to 6.2, and 6.4 is diabetic. And so then I thought, I need to do this. And I encourage anybody who, first of all, work with a registered dietitian, and you got your insurance is going to cover it. But and check this monitor. But some people I know, they wear it all continuous, like you say.
Yeah.
Like, I'm taking a break because it was freaking me out. But I'll tell you, it really helped me, because I realized, like, I'm mostly hypoglycemic. Like, I would drop. And as soon as my little alarm went off, I just ate a few Brazil nuts, which are super high in selenium, really good for your thyroid, and really good for people with chronic kidney disease. So I felt right in there. And I'm telling you, I feel like, I know some of you've seen me this year. I've been struggling with a lot of health issues. My energy is definitely getting better every show. And speaking of every show, we're kind of halfway, almost done. We're almost more than halfway. Shan, just go ahead. We do have a couple of incredible other practitioners who did shows on specifically on diabetes, and I'd like you to go back into our YouTube channel, and this is like, I think, our 94th show, and find some of those people, give the some resources to people, to some other back shows that might help them as well. So, and then the other thing too, I just want to say, anybody who's listening to the show live, and you're not on our email list, definitely want to reach out to us so you can get the replay. And also, if you're listening to us on YouTube or on Spotify or Anchor, we so appreciate your likes, your comments, and all that stuff. I don't usually say this, but I'm saying it more because it's important. These are great interviews. This interview that we're having with Chandler right now, it needs to be heard by millions of people, or even thousands would be fine. This information is changing and life-changing for people who are on the fence about diving into having enough self-respect for themselves to pick up the phone and call and get an appointment with either Chandler or another registered dietitian. Talk to your primary care, get a recommendation, because you will need a referral, and get on the program. Wear a monitor for 2 weeks if your A1C is pre-diabetic. It could change your life. And that's what we're talking. This is positive. That's why we're on a dose of positivity right here. And just the last thing I want to mention, and we're going to pop this in the chat as well. And then Chandler, we're going to dive deep into the next level of what you do. But I want to remind everybody that Tel is still in China in the hospital, malnourished as can be, battling with cancer. We're going to pop in her GoFundMe, and anybody, it's a trust. We love her so much. She was helping me for 3 years, and now I have the wonderful Shan and TJ on the show live, who are taking care of all the technical stuff, and we are so grateful and appreciative to you guys for being here on the show. So you'll see all these in the chat. And anybody, let me know, girls, if there's anybody on the other channels who have a question, or if anybody has a question, now's the time to drop it in the chat. So, yeah, so Chandler, tell us like the typical, because there's so much resistance in people like addressing addiction, addressing, um, breaking these old habits, the fear of like making that initial contact with their own inner being, like just saying, I need help.
Mhm.
So with the people who are on the fence about this, how would you say to them, like, I'm really comfortable with you, right? But are all registered dietitians trained? Is there a holistic component? Like when you go to medical school, they teach you like 4 credits in nutrition and that's it. So how does somebody who's on the fence, who's feeling, well, I'm not going to give up my drink at 5 o'clock, or I'm not going to give up my Snicker bars, or
Uh-huh.
I'm or whatever, what's the likelihood of someone's life being shortened by not taking care of their nutritional health?
Mhm. Well, the first thing I would want to say is if somebody's considering working with a dietitian and they're on the fence, if not all dietitians accept insurance, but a lot of dietitians do in private practice. So what I would recommend doing in your area is to look up online, dietitians in like that in private practice in your area and read reviews, look at their website. There's also dietitians like myself who work in private practice. Our office is located in New Jersey, but we see clients virtually. So, and we accept all all major insurance plans. So we see clients all across the United States. But there are many dietitians that work in person and virtually and accept insurance. And you can go online and just get a feel for them, look at their website, read their reviews. And if it is covered by your insurance and you're on the fence, but you have a feeling that maybe working on your nutrition would benefit your health, then go for it. Meet with them, see if they're a good fit. It's in your benefits. And if it's not, you could move on to the next person, or hopefully, hopefully they are a good fit, because I think that working with a dietitian can really have profound effects on just both your physical and your mental health, because food just plays such a huge role in our life. And I think if you are working with somebody that is coming from I would never tell, if somebody came to me and they love Snickers, I would never, say you cannot eat that. I think what we need to do is figure out what your non-negotiables are and make changes in your diet and your lifestyle that seem realistic and achievable. More about adding in than what we can take away. That's always a good approach at first. So if you maybe have, a bunch of things in your diet that are not the greatest nutritionally, I would want to focus on like what we could add into your diet versus take away, because that is usually more easy for people, right? Like what can we add to your plate, right? Is there I don't know, could we add some veggies to this? Could we add a protein with your breakfast? We don't need to take away what you already have, but let's try to add this in a way that feels doable for you. And I always encourage people to work with dietitians, because since they have the training that they do, they can educate you. We provide nutrition education all through session. This is what food does for you. This is why this is a better choice. If you go to the grocery store and you're looking at the things in the grocery aisle, this is how you can make a choice that like you feel like is right for you, and you're not confused, or you're not, roaming the aisles and unsure like what to do. So when you get that nutrition education and you understand the why behind why you're choosing something, you feel like more empowered, and you have more of a reason to do it, right? If you should eat green leafy vegetables, but you have no idea why, and you just think you have to because they're healthy, but you have no education on the benefits or what to do with them, you're much less likely. So I do encourage people to give it a shot, because I think that we can really make a plan that's really sustainable for clients that they can implement with any type of lifestyle.
Yeah, I love that. It's the accountability piece,
Mhm.
that I find that is so important. And so, like, this is such a big topic. I mean, big industries like the whole weight loss industry. We've got Weight Watchers, we got Noom, we got all these things,
Yeah.
right? And then we've got social media, so it makes it really complicated. So can you just talk about that a little bit? And then I do have a really good question here after that, but I do want to address that because there's so much misinformation out there, and people are spending
Yeah.
so much money on weight loss products or mood products. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
And there are so many diets out there, right? Like, and it's hard to choose, like, which is the right one for me, which diet plan should I do? And unfortunately, I have many, many people come into my office that are frustrated because they did a diet, and whatever that diet would be, and they lost the weight and then they gained the weight back plus some more. And I always ask them, is what you were doing, was it sustainable? Is it something that you would want to do for the rest of your life? Are you, like, if it's a diet that, for example, is like packaged frozen meals or bars, is that something that you plan on doing in the long run, right? If it's not, then your body is going, like, when you stop doing that, your body's going to, like, go, it's going to realize that this is a temporary solution here, right? And it's going to go back to how it was previously. Like, that's why we need to change the shift from a diet to a lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
Because diets create no trust with your body. They tell you you need to eat X, Y, and Z. And if you don't if you don't eat X, Y, and Z, then you're giving up, or you don't have any willpower, right? But it's not, those recommendations and whatever the plan might be is not specific to you, right? Our bodies eventually don't want to be following these really restrictive plans, and we end up just giving in to what we actually need, right? Like adequate calories or adequate carbs or protein or whatever it might be. So, with the diets out there, that's kind of like what I'd have to say about them. Unfortunately, I feel like they're not always that great. And I always, say to my clients as well that we, like, work with the individual rather than the group,
Right,
right? Like,
like,
so the individual that we're working with, not the group. Okay. So, like, even though we do work with families and, like, we'll have, like, group nutrition discussions, I think working with somebody one-on-one is really helpful to tailor the plan just for them.
I just love everything you just said right there, which is so specific. Each individual person. Some people are going to be allergic to eggplants, or they have
Mhm.
arthritis, so they're not eating the Solanaceae family or whatever it is. And you could go crazy because you go on the internet and you're looking at social media and they're telling you, you got to juice or you got to have this supplement, and it's not most of the time legit. So I think that people are in this new age have really gotten some misinformation that is shaving years off their lives and creating an aging process that is unnecessary. And I love this because this question is from somebody who's 24 years old, and they're on this call right now, and they're really, I mean, this is so, Alicia, this is so great that you're here. She's 24. She has bad
Mhm.
receding gums. She believes it's from a mix of grinding at night and oral surgery that she had when she was younger, and now misalignment in her teeth. And
Mhm.
so, any advice for food practices that can slow down this? I mean, like we started at the beginning, it's this oral health, right? That
Mhm.
she can do. She's done. She's had hypothyroidism, and still trying to balance that. And she's tried to eat Brazil nuts. She tries to eat Brazil nuts often. That's probably a good thing. But what
Uh-huh.
what what do you say to someone who's 24? She's ready. This is so great. You're being proactive, and you're on this call, honey. Good for you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, So, I mean, there's a number of things. I think you had mentioned that she also has a history of something with her thyroid
Yes,
too. Okay.
hypothyroidism.
Okay. Yeah. So I think you had like supporting the health of the thyroid, eating,
Yes.
as you had mentioned, selenium is great for that. Zinc is great for that, focusing on omega-3 intake. From an anti-inflammatory standpoint, we want to eat as many colorful like fruits and vegetables in the diet, and making sure that you are eating foods that are going to nourish your gut. And this is just general, right? Like, because with the specifics with her, like mouth and the grinding of her teeth right at night, I would want to know a little bit more history about that and see what her diet looks like to see if there's any like gaps for like nutritional deficiencies. Because there are definitely nutritional deficiencies that can be linked to oral health, but I again would want to look at her whole diet and see where maybe those gaps are. But that being said, I would still focus on thyroid health, gut health. I would focus on eating anti-inflammatory to support longevity and to support her feeling her best and having her best energy.
That sounds really great, Alicia. You got that. And the other thing I'm going to throw in my 2 cents on that, because I have had terrible dental problems, even though my father was a dentist, and oil pulling. And I don't know how you feel about this, Chandler, but with coconut oil or sesame oil, and then I put in some oregano oil in here. This is so interesting, because here I am saying this is like social media stuff, or I'm just throwing this out there to on my YouTube channel, but it is a practice that is Ayurvedic, and they've been practicing it for over 5,000 years. So I can honestly say not only has it helped me, but it is a practice that has been around for oral hygiene. And actually, Shan, find a good there's a biological dentist that we interviewed, and we're going to be interviewing another one here in a couple of months. He's amazing. But find that interview with Michael. He is a dentist, and it's a great interview. But oil pulling, and you can also find a link and put in a link on oil pulling, which really should help you, Alicia, a lot. So, and call Chandler and get some more details on the food. Because
Yeah,
you're
and
right.
that's it. I've heard good things about that. Another thing you could maybe do is like, if you don't already do it, is like tongue scraping in the morning and at night to remove any like bacteria that's on your tongue. You can get them on Amazon for like $5. They're just like little metal tongue scrapers. But that is great because when we wake up, there's like a lot of gook and stuff on our tongue, and getting rid of that can really help like your oral hygiene and help to keep the health of your mouth nice and healthy. I also recommend and I'm not like an expert in this by any means, but this would just be with the mouthwash that you use, is to try to use a natural mouthwash, because a lot of the mouthwashes that are on the market actually kill a lot of the healthy bacteria that we need. So using like a non-toxic mouthwash is a great way to kind of protect also the healthy bacteria in the mouth.
Absolutely. And you know what? I find when I oil pull, I don't need to use a mouthwash. It
Yeah,
takes
you don't
all
need
that
to either.
bacteria off, and it's super great. So girls, make sure you get a link to oil pulling. That's super good information, Chandler. And we only have like 5 minutes left. And speaking of tips, one of the tips that you gave me that is super awesome, and especially for all you ladies out there who are still menstruating or are anemic like myself, you told me about these fish. Can you talk about the fish, the iron fish, and also leave us with some other tips like you just did right there with the tongue scraping? That's really great. We got the oil pulling, and talk about some other tips you can take us home with, because this interview is almost a wrap, honey. I have to have you back on the show.
Okay, well, I'm sure people are a little bit confused when you said the fish, what you're
Right.
referring to. So just a quick little tip, something that Donna we were discussing was iron deficiency and how to boost iron intake through food. And a really easy way to increase your iron intake, there's two ways that we talked about, was using a cast iron skillet. That's a great way to add iron to your foods. They're great. They last a lifetime. And they are pretty affordable. So you can get a cast iron skillet. You can use an iron fish, which you can actually get on Amazon or, yeah, I mean, Amazon's probably the best place to get it, which actually adds iron to your food. So it's a little fish, and it looks like the same material as like cast iron, and you put it in your water when you're boiling water to make rice, water to make tea. Anytime that you're like using water on the stovetop, you can throw the little iron fish in there, and it adds iron to your food. Super easy, super great way to like add iron, enhance the iron in your diet. And if you do eat plant-based sources of iron like spinach, just make sure you add vitamin C, because that's what enhances the absorption of plant-based sources of iron. So for example, spinach is plant-based iron. It's not as bioavailable as iron from animals. So if you add things like you squeeze lemon on your spinach, your body's going to absorb significantly more iron in your food. So those are like the type of things that we teach our clients. Like when it comes to deficiencies, we want them to know these little tips and tricks that are super like attainable, that they can do. And we really see huge improvements on blood work and how they feel and that's just iron is one example, but we address all different types of nutritional deficiencies in our practice. Like vitamin D, magnesium. There's just so many that we work with our clients.
That's so great. So as far as closing remarks, and because we don't want to leave our audience deficient with any wisdom that you have, as far as the like the most important thing that you would do for a client to empower them, like I guess what I want to backtrack here for a minute, because I thought what you said was so unique and so different. The way you work with your clients, Chandler, is you never make them feel, and this is so important. The reason why I'm bringing this at the end, and I really want you guys to hear this. Like she said, she's not going to tell you not to eat the Snicker bar. She's not going to tell you not to, if not to do this or that. She's going to ask you questions like, what do you like? What do you like? Your approach is so unique. It's so heartfelt. So the reason why I'm saying this, so you might get with a registered dietitian and they might look at your blood work and they say, oh, your cholesterol is this, you got to do this, you got to do that. And it's just too much information. And then people do nothing. And it stresses them out and their cholesterol goes up. So leave us out now. Like, first of all, you guys make sure you put all Chandler's contact information in there, and so you can get a hold of Chandler and talk to your doctor and see if your insurance covers or your insurance company covers this. But like all dietitians are created equal, and you're one of those very unique, special humans. So what are things that what are the kinds of questions people, when you say you're interviewing a dietitian or you're even interviewing your doctor, what are some of those questions that we can leave our audience with so they feel empowered, so they don't get disenchanted by this process of change?
Yeah. Well, we have to be our own health advocates. So if you are going to whoever your provider is, and you're coming with a problem or you're feeling a certain way about your health and you feel like you're not being heard, then you need to find somebody you need to find somebody else. I mean, to put it bluntly, because we all deserve to work with a provider that can hear us and listen to what we're saying and, really work with us so that we work with the individual so they can feel their absolute best. So sometimes, I think we need to go to whoever the provider may be prepared, right? We need to have our questions ready. We need to know what we want to ask and know that that there is somebody out there that can help them. And like I mentioned before, for example, dietitians, we do take insurance. So not all dietitians, but a lot of private practice dietitians do. And it's covered 100% under benefits. So no referral actually needed in most cases. So you can come see, for example, us in our practice, 100% covered under your benefits, and we can work with you. And again, it can be part of, you know, your wellness protocol or your wellness program. It could be nutrition, and it could be something that could be covered again under your insurance. So I just want to point that out there because I don't think a lot of people know that they can work with a dietitian with utilizing, you know, those resources.
I think just about everybody on this call might be contacting you. I just put Chandler's website back in there, and I know you had mentioned something. If people call from mention that you saw this show, she'll give you, well, if your insurance doesn't cover it, will give you a special rate. But everybody who contacts you, like the only thing with me is Medicare doesn't cover it unless you're in state, but all other insurances does. So there's no excuse to take the step. This is a dose of positivity. Chandler Ray, you are a gift to the world. You are a gift to
Oh,
a dose of
thank you.
positivity. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us here today. And I want to thank everybody on the live show and everybody who's listening on the other channels for showing up today. Next week, we have another incredible special guest, Chandler. Let me just tell you, I started this conversation talking about microbes and the digestion. Well, Nani Zephyr, she was on the call earlier. She had to drop off. She is a soil mega scientist, geek like yourself in a good way. She studies the nutrition of the soil, and she's an expert on composting. And that's kind of interesting because I started out a dose of positivity today talking about the gut microbiome. Well, she's going to be talking about the gut microbiome of the Pachamama and how that relates to our own personal microbiome. So I hope you'll all join us next week on a dose of positivity. Chandler, we loved having you. And
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful speaking with you tonight.
So awesome, honey. So
All right.
awesome. Big love to everybody. And if you want to stay on, Chandler, just stay on a minute.
Yeah, I will.
Sometimes our guests are shy, and afterwards they might have some direct questions for you. And that's the bonus from coming to the live show. You get to talk directly with the professionals that I bring to you on a dose of positivity. Don't forget to love us, and share the good word. Big love and aloha.